All right. Welcome, everybody. It's right about 2 o'clock. I want to give it a couple of minutes for folks to filter in, though. Then we'll get started. All right, folks are filtering in. It's 2:01 by my clock. So why don't I go ahead and start sharing what we're going to be talking about today. Okay. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? Welcome, and thank you for attending the Colorado Natural Medicine Advisory Board stakeholder meeting via webinar today. The date is April 26th, 2024, and it is 2:02 p.m. Before we get started, I just wanted to give you all a reminder that we are being recorded today. And next, I would like to introduce the staff members from the Division of Professions and Occupations that are present. My name is Nate Brown. I am the newly appointed regulatory analyst for the division, taking over from Darcy Magnuson, who I'm sure many of you are familiar with, having previously interacted with her on these issues. Just a little bit about myself, so you can get to know me a little bit. I've worked for DORA now for about 4 or 5 years. I worked for the state legislature for a few years before that. So I've worked with public policy quite a bit up to this point. Also attending is Lori Bratton, the Natural Medicine Program Director, Jackie Arsalan, the Deputy Division Director for Program Operations, Maria Hernandez, the Regulatory Coordinator, and we also have Ashley Moeller, who is Attorney General. For those of you who have not attended any previous stakeholder engagement sessions, I wanted to first hand it over to Lori Bratton, Program Director for Natural Medicine Program, to provide you all with an overview of the regulatory framework we are charged with implementing. Lori.
Thank you very much, Nate. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Lori Bratton, Program Director for the Natural Medicine Program here at DORA. For those of you who have joined us previously, you may already be familiar with the dual implementation requirements between DORA and DOR as it relates to the regulatory framework. The law directs the Department of Regulatory Agencies, DORA, to license and regulate facilitators, persons approved by the state to administer natural medicine to adults in a regulated environment. The law directs the Department of Revenue, DOR, to license and regulate healing centers, cultivations, manufacturers, and laboratory testing facilities. We at DORA and our partners at DOR are working together through separate processes for implementation of the natural medicine program. So we want to be clear about that and ensure you are tracking the work of each agency based on your area of interest. Our jurisdiction is different from DOR's, but we are closely coordinating between our agencies to ensure our regulations complement one another, all while consulting with the Natural Medicine Advisory Board, which is also located here within DORA. Similarly, our partners at the Public Health Department, CDPHE, are also going to initiate rulemaking as part of establishing this statewide program. We are confident in our ability to coordinate between agencies. And now I will hand it back over to Nate to proceed with the rest of today's meeting.
Great, thank you so much, Lori. The division has transitioned to a platform that is 100% virtual, and we appreciate your flexibility in this matter. As many of you have been to DORA stakeholder meetings before, we would like to reiterate the importance of your comments today. DORA makes decisions every day that may affect your life and your business, so your input is vital to the rulemaking process. Throughout this process, our goal is to create regulations that first and foremost clarify and explain legislation, ensure minimum competency to enter, continue practice, and provide only what is absolutely necessary for consumer protection without creating unnecessary barriers to the marketplace. Your input will be part of the information that goes to the director as he considers adopting revisions to the rules. More specifically, today, we will receive feedback from you all regarding proposed new rule, Rule 6, standards of practice, and Rule 7 for advertisement to implement Colorado Senate Bill 23-290. A little bit about the process. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the program's website by the close of business tomorrow. That'll be Monday, given that it's Friday afternoon. As this stakeholder meeting is held solely by webinar, please raise your hand by using the hand icon if you would like to speak, and we will unmute your line so you will be heard by everyone. Or you can type your comment in the question section and we will read it aloud. I do know that's a little bit different from the process that they use over at DOR where you sign up to speak. So please keep that in mind. If you do want to have your comment heard, you will need to use that raise the hand function or type it in for us, Q&A. Before we start taking comments, I want to ask anyone providing comments to please state your name and the name of the organization that you represent, if any. Feel free to provide either general comments on the rules or specific comments on the proposed language. Please limit your comments to no more than 2 minutes. We will have a timer that shows up on screen to give you an indication of how long you've been speaking. And try not to repeat something that was already said. Stating you're in full agreement with something someone else has already said works just fine and will be noted as if you had said that same comment. Just some general housekeeping matters. If you are using the audio through your computer, please remember to put any phones on vibrate or turn them off. And whether you're using your computer or phone audio, try to keep background noises to a minimum when speaking. So with that, we will go ahead and begin taking comments. Let's see, I believe if this is working the way it should, you all popped up in order of your hands raised. So again, I want to lead off by just apologizing as a blanket statement for any names that I butcher through this process. So let's start with Dana Starbird. I believe you had your hand raised first. Please go ahead once you are unmuted, and you will have 2 minutes. Once you start speaking.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this time to speak. My name is Dana Tisconia Starbird. I am with Soma Wellness. I have provided written comments with research articles attached on the importance of touch therapy and different integration practices. I would like to speak today on preparation, integration, and supportive touch in psychedelic therapies. Supportive touch has been known to reduce stress and anxiety and immediately help to lower cortisol levels within a session. I've been doing this work for over a decade. I've been working with people, and I have had people asked to be held during sessions because of parenting issues that have come up. So it's like a restorative touch that has happened. I have had them lay their head on my lap and stroke their hair as if a parent was parenting a child. And these have been very, very transformative issues within the session that has come up in the integration. And that had I denied a form of touch, that it would have affected them deeply. I am also a licensed massage therapist and do somatic practices. In the area around integration, I have been doing integration work for over a decade as well, and I have done this over the computer via Zoom with clients, having them have to do integration while in person and staying, because integration can last sometimes many, many months and sometimes a year. So being able to provide integration services over electronic means is, I think, vital for the health of our participants so that it doesn't cause any more damage or cost barriers for them to receive treatment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much for your comment. And I will, before I call on the next participant, I just wanted to say that throughout this, I will be taking some notes in the comments. You may have seen me put a comment in there, kind of summarizing what you were saying. So if you see me typing something that you think doesn't capture what your comment is, or if you'd like me to state it in a different way, please let me know. Next up is Eric Vaughn. Once you're muted, please go ahead.
Hi, thanks so much. My name is Eric Vaughn from Epiphany Mushroom. I just want to say thanks to everyone involved in this process. It's been great to see the spirit of collaboration. Been very encouraging to see the overarching focus on safety and accessibility. And with that said, one area of concern is the language in Rule 6.14, subsection F. It appears to restrict the ability for facilitators to provide preparation and integration services via telehealth if the client lives out of state. So it's our strongly held belief that best practices for psychedelic assisted therapy would include extensive preparation and long-term integration support. And I would bet that most providers would offer far more than the minimum required one prep and one integration session. And the current language for 6.14 subsection F appears to make extensive preparation and ongoing integration completely inaccessible for anyone outside of Colorado. And so it would push clients from out of state to make the choice between settling for inadequate preparation and integration unless they have the resources to stay for months at a time, or it would push them back underground in the legacy market out of the regulated market, which I know is not the intent here. So thanks in advance for your consideration. Thanks again for the great work and the continued focus on safety and accessibility.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your comment. Okay. Next up, and again, please excuse any names I butcher. Kendall Spinks, you're up next. Please go ahead as soon as you're muted.
Hello. Nice to see you and to be here. I echo the comments that I really appreciate the open forum nature of this and the collection of comments to make our regulations like the best in the country. And I am wanting to talk about, and I'm just representing myself as a person, by the way, talk about the language about sessions outside of a healing center in another allowed location. And hopefully finding a definition for that coming at some point. I'm assuming maybe if you were a licensed therapist or a massage therapist, somatic therapist, a coach, that you would be able to practice within your own office. I'm also concerned about the requirement, as it is written so far, that if it is not in a healing center, that a second facilitator would need to be there. That seems a little confusing. It would impose onerous cost to people that were wanting to do a session even in their own home. It would almost seem to undercut the idea of licensure. Is the facilitator licensed to practice this, or are they not? Why would the location make them require a second facilitator in the presence? Additionally, a requirement that session be recorded feels intrusive for those who may not want it. I guess one of the concerns I have is that it feels like you are funneling people into only a center. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your comment. Next up, we have Dr. Oh, put your hand down. I put your hand back up. Dr. Lloyd Covens, please go ahead. You'll have 2 minutes once you start.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My comment dealt principally with the two classes we're creating, facilitator and then I guess a or a junior facilitator. In terms of the amount of client need that each of these specialties will just necessarily need, I prepared some slides to illustrate what has been the cutoff point between lower and medium milligrams of psilocybin and those above the 24 milligram category. So without the ability to share with the stakeholders what we're talking about, I'm a little bit at a disadvantage. I was told it would be included in the stakeholder and shared with the boards. I'm not sure which boards inside of, again, your collection. What this entails would be the proposal to have a higher level of licensure and training that goes above 22 milligrams or 24 milligrams. Again, the reason being that we need to prove it scientifically, but the event of an unsafe occurrence is going to probably be at a higher milligram dosing. So that would be the cutoff point, and we'd have to do with microdosing under 24 milligrams as well. Secondarily, I do believe that the 120 hours that is now sitting on the table for facilitator training does need to be fleshed out so that we can give credit to those professionals that have addiction training, that have other kinds of healing that could get credit for some of that 120 hours. And then, of course, we hope that we can match up the number of facilitators that come from other states with some similar retroactive ability to accept their credentials, and for Colorado's credentials to be accepted in other states, hopefully, as this rolls out. Again, I'll go back to my instructions to submit more of this to your docket. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I do know that we got your slides that you provided and included those in the packet of information that we've made available online that includes all of the other public comments that we've received so far. So I appreciate you sending those along and trust that they're definitely available for anybody to look at now. Next hand I see is Tassia Poinsetta. Again, really sorry if I butchered your name.
No problem. My name is Tasha Poinsett, and I'm the Colorado director of a nonprofit called the Healing Advocacy Fund. I want to thank Dora staff for putting together these comprehensive rules. And my first comment is also in regards to 6.14 subsection F, the prohibition of remote preparation and integration for participants located out of state. Also agree with previous commenters that this is a safety issue and people need to have access to more extended preparation and integration before and after they're in Colorado. And the specific change we recommend to this language is amending it to facilitators should avoid engaging in an unlicensed practice of a licensed profession in another state while the participant is physically located in another jurisdiction. Also submitted that in writing. And I think the key point here is that I don't think that the term telehealth is actually the applicable term. Although this program was passed by Colorado voters to create access for people struggling with mental health conditions, there's no requirement that that's the reason that they're seeking access. It's not explicitly medical or clinical program, so there's no requirement for diagnosis, prescription, separate professional licensure to participate. And so I think it is relevant that this is not a profession that is currently licensed in other states and should not be treated as such. Do recognize, however, that there's certain situations, especially for clinical facilitators, where it could get a little bit legally tricky if they are indeed treating somebody's diagnosed conditions. But we feel that that should be left to the discretion of those facilitators to work with legal counsel rather than a blanket ban for everyone, especially given that that doesn't apply to the same extent to non-clinical facilitators. So a couple other items that are just zooming out a little bit. I encouraged, never mind. We'll provide them in writing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, I'll go to written comments now. Looks like we have one from Christopher Vinci. Hello, thank you all for your time. Where or when will we be seeing drafts for manufacturers and cultivators? I apologize if this has already been mentioned. It looks like Lori is going to answer a question for us there. Then we have another written comment from Carolyn Holland. Please tell us how to access the draft rules with the comments and any other material that has been submitted to DORA Natural Medicine Advisory Board. Thank you. So that is all available online. If you go to our the DPO website and find the Natural Medicine Advisory Board subpage, all of this information, once we're done with this today, we'll upload the red line here with all these comments. You'll be able to see them. There'll be a link up on our website. Appreciate the questions. And I don't see any other hands up at the moment, but I just wanted to take a moment to say I appreciate everybody coming out. It's very rare, at least in my experience, to see so many people engaged and interested in occupational licensure. And so it's very refreshing and it's very heartening for me to see so many people show up to something like this. I really appreciate you all taking the time to come and share your thoughts with us. We'll go back to spoken comments. Looks like we have Charity Mills. Your hand is up. Please go ahead. Once you're muted, I'll start the timer.
Thank you. I have a question that has not been in the rules at any point that I can find yet. Our licensed I'm Charity with Colorado Teletherapy Services. Are licensed facilitators and clinical facilitators allowed to grow their own natural medicine and provide that during sessions, or does that have to come through a healing center and a licensed grow facility? Is there any discussion on that yet, or is that within the rules somewhere that I haven't found?
Good question. Lori, are you able to
Yes,
step in on that one?
all products and cultivation, manufacturing and such is the Department of Revenue has oversight of that, and they will be working on that in their rulemaking sessions. That if you visit their website, you can see when those dates are and what the topics that will be covered at each session are.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lori. One more raised hand before we go back to written comments. Don Larson, you are up next. Please go ahead as soon as you are muted.
Hi, thank you. Unmute. Hi, thank you. Sorry, I was having a trouble there. I wanted to ask about the rules for registered psychotherapists. Right now, it appears that the proposed rules say they'll only be giving the facilitator license status on the personal use side of the law if they do the educational hours. Many registered psychotherapists like myself have been giving trauma therapy and, have been fully clinical licensed registered psychotherapist for 25 years. And if I were to receive the appropriate training, like the year-long certification processes, can you see giving the clinical licensed facilitator status to those registered therapists that show the skills for it?
I can respond to that, Nate.
Please go ahead, Lori.
So currently, registered psychotherapist is not contained under clinical. So you could absolutely apply for a facilitator license after you've completed the training. So only licensed individuals also will meet that criteria for clinical facilitator. So you will need to hold a license in one of the areas outlined in the rules, which is to treat and diagnose, which is the medical mental health, and some nursing licensure to qualify for a clinical facilitator. Hope that answers your question.
Great. Thank you, Lori. I don't see any hands raised at the moment, so let's go to some written comments. Dr. Lloyd Covens asks, when can applicants submit for professional licensure from DORA in this area? I will let Lori jump in if she wants to, but I believe they will be in December is when our target date is. But Lori, please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that is correct. They will be ready to open and receive applications by December 31st, 2024.
Okay. Another written comment from Dana Starbird. I'm in agreement with Tasha that this should not be treated as a licensed profession in other states. I would like to suggest that it could be more in alignment with coaching, as we are helping our clients with lifestyle changes and choices. Tasha points, I apologize, I'm really messing up your name. If you do have, I mean, there are no other comments at this point. So if you would like to, Ms. points out, if you would like to raise your hand, yes, there you go. Please go ahead. You can be unmuted and I'll give you another 2 minutes for sure.
Hey, I appreciate that. Tasha points out the Healing Advocacy Fund. So I'll just finish what I was going to share. So I think zooming out a little bit, I would encourage the drafters to look at places where the draft rules could be consolidated and streamlined. There's a few topics that appear at 2 or 3 separate places throughout the documents, and the ones that stand out to me are the parameters around physical touch, as well as the required informed consent and disclosures. And my concern is that if they appear multiple places, it's going to be a lot harder for facilitators to kind of understand what the different sets of requirements are. There's more opportunity for disagreement across those various areas. And then also with Healing Advocacy Fund, we've hosted a number of discussions with practitioners or legacy facilitators who are considering whether they would apply for a license once this program's launched. And what they've consistently shared with us is that one of their biggest concerns that would reduce their likelihood of participating in the program is if it is overly burdensome and restrictive. And so I think having a much longer and more complex set of rules increases the likelihood that that's going to be the response and could decrease participation. We're going to submit some written comments where we suggest opportunities to consolidate. And so not necessarily dropping content, but just making sure it only shows up once. And then there are certain things that we're planning to recommend could also be actually just removed, might make less sense in rule and more sense in required training and best practices. So we'll provide written comment with additional details there.
Perfect. We love written comments. Okay, another hand raised, Christopher Vinci. Apologize if I butcher your name. Please go ahead as soon as you're unmuted.
Yeah, actually, you were pretty close there, Vinci. Thank you guys for your time. I just have a twofold question briefly. Dora, you guys have been very good about providing information and making these meetings accessible. And you guys say you are working essentially closely with DOR. However, I'm on the manufacturing cultivation end of things, or I'm hoping to be. And so their website is quite a bit more vague, and they list their agenda. Will these meetings be accessible? I mean, how much cooperation between you two is going on? And on my side of things, as a potential cultivator and manufacturer, how much cooperation or how much working in tandem with you both will I have to be doing?
Lori, would you like to?
Sure. Thank you for your question. We work closely with the Department of Revenue. However, in regards to manufacturing and cultivation, it is completely in their wheelhouse. So I would suggest attending one of their listening sessions and stakeholder meetings to provide feedback live there.
All right. Let's see if there are any other hands. Oh, hand just went up. Kindle Spinks, please go ahead.
Hi again. Now, as long as we have time, I did have a concern I wanted to throw out about the collection of various forms and disclosures, and the way that I see it written here is pretty much saying that the facilitator has to collect all of those personally, and I'm wondering if that is truly the requirement, if they are working in the healing center, or is there another person who would be able to collect some of those forms like you would in a doctor's office when you go in and check in, you're given a set of forms to fill out. Just wondering if there would be a little bit more flexibility. Certainly, some of them, the intake forms and the touch disclosure and contracts and things I could see, but if some of them seem more like they could be done by another person. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your comment. Let's see if there are any. I see Dr. Lloyd Evans, please go ahead.
Thanks again, Nate. In the last meeting, I asked if there was a way that our stakeholders can be able to reach one another. I understand people are usually able to maintain their anonymous status, but we're all working as a group. I know the Natural Advisory Committee has over 120 recommendations, and they cross DORA and DOR issues at this point. So as a stakeholder, I am very concerned that we're not just seeing each other speak, we're not seeing their name, we're not able to say, I appreciate the comment within 2 minutes of Tasha and would like to follow up. In this case, I know how to reach her, but there's others that have made very good comments, and we're really in this format, in my opinion, operating very isolated from one another as a stakeholder group. And we don't get feedback from written comments. We may not before July 22nd. And I'm wondering if this is something that has been set up on purpose, or if it's simply the difference between very open meetings that Department of Revenue has been having that are interactive, that show people's names, that have them ability to, again, talk to one another in the chat versus what you're doing, which is very restrictive. Again, with all due respect to an administrative board, I believe under Colorado, you're required to stand by the Colorado Open Meetings Act, and then even denying me to show a complex slide that we have proposing within rulemaking, it is very constrictive. And I'm not, again, expecting you to change anything. I'm simply registering my issue, Nate, that hundreds of people are interested in this area. And those of us in Colorado are again, being kept from talking to one another, just the regulators.
We really appreciate your comment. Dana Starbird. Well, actually, you know what? Let's go to Vanessa Johnston first because she hasn't spoken yet.
Hi there, my name is Vanessa Johnston. I'm speaking on behalf of my business, which is Denver End of Life Doula LLC. I've also submitted written comment. Thank you. I appreciate this open forum for discussion. And as others have stated, I appreciate the focus on safety and accessibility. My concern is about the accessibility of psychedelic assisted therapy for the population of those who are struggling at the end of life. The requirements for this facilitation at a wellness center is going to be impossible for a lot of clients that I work with, just due to the progression of their disease. And, you know, a lot of the research done on psychedelic assisted therapy has shown huge potential for people at the end of life who are really struggling with fear of death and other things. And to require them to attend a wellness center is really going to impact the accessibility of these medicines for them. So I don't know which section that goes with, but I just wanted to note that for my clients in particular, the potential is great to help them, but it's really would impact the accessibility if they were required to leave their homes, because these are people that are very nearing the end of life. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you so much.
If I could respond to that, to your comment, Ms. Johnson, the combined subcommittee, which is a section of the advisory board, is currently discussing that exact issue in home healthcare. And so I invite you to join those meetings. They are on the second Friday of each month, and it will be continuing for a few months, their discussion. So you can listen in there and possibly gain some insight from those discussions.
Great, thank you, Lori. Let's now go back to Dana Starboard. Please go ahead.
Thank you for another chance to speak. I would like to say I'm in agreement with Vanessa, who just spoke. I was a transcriber on the end-of-life studies done by Johns Hopkins University, and it is very difficult for people at the end of life to travel to a healing center to receive services, and being in a place where that they love and feel comforted, I think would be more beneficial to their service. The other thing I would like to talk about again is a little bit more going back to the touch. And I would like to recommend that the touch services actually be required in the training programs and not written into law, and that it be part of industry standards of what is happening with touch in the industry. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And let's go see if we have any written comments that we haven't addressed yet. I think we've pretty much covered all of these so far. So let's go on. Let's see, Brent Jaster, please go ahead.
Well, thank you. I'm a family physician by training, board certified. I've also done certifications in ketamine. I'm in process of completing a certification in psilocybin assisted therapy through a Canadian organization. And I did have patients up until 2:30 today, so I'm sorry for what I missed. But I just wanted to at least put out there that, you know, right now I'm able to offer ketamine assisted treatments in a clinical setting. I'm able to do home visits. The Canadians are much ahead of us in terms of allowing for therapeutic use of psilocybin at end of life, therapeutic use of MDMA, which is under current FDA review for legalization in this country. And my biggest worry is just seeing how, as an insurance-based practice, it's so hard to do anything outside of corporate medicine, and more things are being corporatized. They, I think, exclude the opinions of healthcare professionals. They exclude the opinions of patients. And without knowing every detail that's been discussed today or having reviewed all of the document recently, my biggest concern is that the people that need the most freedom to access these medicines, being patients, but also the healthcare professionals trained to use them, they're going to need to have flexibility outside of a model where only large businesses or people who are being funded by investors or who have the ability to lobby politicians I just see how our current model is already leaving people behind. Doctors are leaving medicine, patients are dissatisfied. And if we go in that direction at all, it's just going to force all these valuable therapies underground.
Thank you for your comment. All right, looks like Tasha Poinsett, you are back up. Please go ahead once you're unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we have the opportunity with you all here. Appreciate it. Tasha Poinsett with the Healing Advocacy Fund. So a couple other pieces that I want to comment on. The prohibition on facilitating for someone that the facilitator has a close personal relationship with. It's subsection D of 6.10. We think that this is probably not a great fit for this specific modality, working with natural medicines. And that what we've seen is that the trust that can develop between facilitator and participant can be particularly important in terms of a safe and therapeutic experience. And in some cases, that might mean a close personal relationship. I think the prohibition on, a sexual or romantic relationship absolutely makes sense. But close personal relationship is just a lot broader. It's not a prohibition in Oregon, and I've actually read of cases where facilitators are working with a family member, and that the family member is really appreciative to have the opportunity to work with that person. So just recommend reconsidering that for safety reasons, and also recognizing that this is a very kind of specific modality that it could be beneficial to have some of those relationships. And then I also want to speak quickly on the subject of touch as well. So again, commenting on what is allowed in Oregon, there is an allowance in Oregon for hugs. And I think that in general, there could be a little bit more consideration or emphasis on what the participant consents to. I think that limiting to this extent can actually restrict the agency of the participant. And I also just want to comment that people do use natural medicines sometimes for physical pain conditions. And so I hope that there can be at least allowance for licensed providers who incorporate touch within their licensed practice and have the competency to safely provide touch, to be able to provide that within preparation integration to support the participants in their kind of range of different needs that they might be seeking access for. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a hand raised from Charity Mills. Please go ahead once you're unmuted.
Thank you again. This is Charity Mills with Colorado Teletherapy Services. Wanted to say that I do agree with what Tasha just was speaking about with regard to the close personal relationships. When we look at the Native American use and indigenous use of natural medicines, a lot of it is ceremonial and within family and tribal ceremonies. So this would definitely take away from that aspect of being able to work within more of that ceremonial environment and that ceremonial perspective if we're not able to incorporate within a familial or close personal relationship use. Again, completely agree also, as she said, with the sexual relationship aspect being of a different nature and obviously not appropriate for anything that's clinical in any regard. But otherwise, especially in looking at some of these groups also, it could be extended family members that come in as a group and maybe extended family by blood or by marriage. So agree with Tasha that needs to be taken into further consideration. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Next up, we have Erica Messenger. Apologize if I messed up your name.
No, you actually got that perfect. Thank you so much. My name is Erica Messenger. I'm a registered nurse located in Southwest Colorado. It's a very rural area. I also serve as a non-voting participant on the Emergency Response Safety and Ethics Subcommittee of the Natural Medicine Advisory Board. I've been in practice for about 12 years in rural health. I agree with Tasha Poinsett and with Charity Mills about striking the close personal relationship from these rules. In a rural area, that is nearly impossible. We know everybody. I work in hospice, for example, and there is rarely a client I have where I don't have not had a close personal relationship with them at one point, or they're a family member of someone I have a close personal relationship. I believe that this would close down access to those who are trying to provide natural medicine services in rural areas. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your comment. Okay, next up, Riley Capps. Please go ahead as soon as you're unmuted. Riley, you look like you're unmuted. If you want to proceed with your comment, please go ahead. Well, if you're having technical issues, please feel free to type in to the chat, or hopefully we can get your issues sorted out. Okay, let's go to some written comments here. See if we have any that we haven't addressed. Any other questions? Okay, I think we've heard pretty much all of those, or at least addressed them. Let's see, I don't see any other hands raised at the moment, but I know it can take a while to formulate your thoughts or type out your question. Well, we do have some time, so Dr. Lloyd Covens, please go ahead once you're muted.
Sorry to come back. I had a different area that was with the training and the proposed 120 hours that is now pending for review. I'm as a prior educator, I'm sorry, Lloyd Covens of Princeton Research. We do see the need for all of these components as proposed, but I'm curious as to how the emphasis has been placed. For instance, 25% of the proposal now sits with a course called Ethics and Colorado Psychedelic Law. So that would be wonderful, but some of the other sessions, for instance, a 5-unit proposed for integration clearly do not fully deal with integration in its multiple forms post client adventure. We have a group of certificates popping up all over the country, some of them very good, some of them questionable. And one would have to say, if you go to San Francisco, attend an 8-week course, pay $8,000, and they certify you to be a healer, will that have any merit when you come to Colorado to provide service, or will it simply be money not well spent if you'd like to be in Colorado Springs or another center? Because we are asking people to come to a new area, spend $8,000 to $10,000, perhaps up to a year, and we're really not giving them a market where they can capitalize on that investment. So I'm very concerned that we're creating, not by design, but by simply going to the lowest common denominator, a very confusing place where we're not going to have facilitators. And therefore, we're not going to have a regulated market that succeeds within our state. So the first part of that is, Nate, will you have a person looking course by course at these proposed dynamics in the 120, or is that set already in concrete? Thank you.
I appreciate your comment. I don't know if Lori, you'd like to address that. I'm not sure I'm able to answer the question at the moment.
If I understand your question, it's regarding the curriculum, and the curriculum that is set for those programs that are going to be seeking approval. So we will be looking at the application for those training programs that are seeking approval. So yes, we will actually be reviewing all of the items that are required, which includes curriculum.
Great, thank you, Lori. And well, looks like Erica Messenger, you got your hand back up. Please go ahead once you're unmuted.
Yes, I apologize. I'm just now reading through these. It's been a busy week. I believe Tasha Poinsett also brought up the point of telehealth. We work a lot in telehealth in rural communities. And I agree that I just don't foresee the issue with having shutting down telehealth services for things like integration, preparation, even potentially screening. I think that would reduce the ability for people from out of state to be able to come. Those some of those sessions need to be done sometimes weeks ahead of time. So I don't actually see where that would be beneficial to require them to be in state for those particular sessions. And I think it would remove their ability to even be able to participate in natural medicine services if they had to be present for all of those sessions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Looks like Brent Jaster, you are up. Please go ahead once you are muted.
Yes, thank you again. I just wanted to follow up on the comments regarding being able to provide virtual, whether we call them telehealth services or not. My practice was changed tremendously through COVID. So even without a pandemic, most of my patients choose telehealth over in-person visits. I know when we've talked about people at the end of life, or if they're not in hospice, even someone receiving palliative care, I believe it discriminates against those individuals' ability to access these medicines if we're requiring all of those visits to be in person. And I actually don't know, but if it would disallow me from providing a home visit to one of these patients, then I also would just take issue with that. So even when we're talking about people in the state of Colorado, even in the same city as me, I think there are equity issues we have to be considering when we are forcing people to leave their home to access a very valuable medicine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, I forgot to stop the timer. Okay. I don't see any other hands raised at the moment. Looks like Lori is typing out answer to one. We've gotten a couple of written comments. Kendall Spinks agrees with the comments about working with someone who has a close personal relationship with, which I believe you spoke out loud. Okay, I think we're good there. Let's go back to in person. We got Sean Hauser. Please go ahead once you're unmuted.
And hey, this is actually Josh Capel. Sorry about the wrong link. I'm with Vicente LLP and Healing Advocacy Fund. Just big picture, I wanted to, applaud both the board and Lloyd for like very, very thoughtful rules. And also I think, a lot of the rules were set up, with sort of this like worst case scenario in mind. And with that, there's a risk that, we really are putting like a stranglehold on a new industry before it starts. And so like a couple like points, is like the prohibition on like close personal relationships and like working with people who you built trust with. That's like one example. Or the prohibition on hugs or supportive touch, in certain circumstances. And then sorry about the background noise. And then also, I think there's, an issue even with like potentially like couples therapy and like, can couples, embrace during natural medicine services or afterwards? And that's like currently prohibited. And so I think big picture, there's a lot of the rules that were very thoughtful, but just maybe walk back a little bit to create a more workable program that really reflects the realities on the ground. And so again, thank you for the thoughtfulness of the comments, and we'll send in some written comments that sort of like reflect these specific points. But I just wanted to bring up this idea of like walking some of these rules back a little bit to how psychedelic care is like currently administered in Colorado.
Great. Thank you so much for your comment. Let's see. Tasha Poinsett, please go ahead.
Thanks. I guess feel free to cut me whenever. Tasha Poinsett, I feel like I'm I wanted to comment quickly on the G subsection 1 A and B, in that we actually recommend, in terms of the requirements for the dosage is aligned with the lengths of time, to just reference Oregon's rules for that. And the reason being, we've done some outreach to facilitators and healing centers in Oregon around the time requirements for different dosages. And they basically say it's working fine. And anytime we hear that from Oregon, we think kind of like, if it's not broken, why fix it? I do want to mention that definitely heard the Natural Medicine Board's conversations around getting rid of the 30 milligram max, and we support that, especially because there are absolutely cases where people aren't going to have any effect on that. What we're hearing from Oregon is particularly in cases where people are on SSRIs or they are seeking access specifically for substance use issues, that oftentimes they need to start actually at the 50 milligrams. So really support removing that, which it sounds like the board has already settled on. But then I think in addition to that, taking a second look at those time and dose requirements from Oregon. And the reason they were allowed in that way in Oregon was to allow for the possibility of people to do lower doses at a lower cost. And again, coming back to safety, one of the things we hear again and again in our conversations is that it can be really helpful for facilitators to be able to work with a participant to get up to a higher dose amount. And I think that's a lot harder to do if you only have 2 breakdowns in terms of the length of time. And sometimes that's really important for people to be able to get a sense and a feel for what this experience is like before they try a higher dose, even though they might need the higher dose to have that full kind of therapeutic effect and experience. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. And we will go back to Charity Mills.
Thanks
Please
so
go
much.
ahead.
I'll be quick. I just wanted to say I'm in agreement with the individuals who have all spoken to the telehealth option, whether we call it a virtual option or an online option. We operate a clinical mental health counseling practice that is 99% telehealth, and to be able to connect with individuals for the pre and post sessions via telehealth or virtually, I think again allows them to be in that safety of their home, to allow the sufficient amount of time to pass. And I just wanted to put on the record in agreement with an adjustment to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, let me go to some written comments. Erica Messenger seconds Dr. Jaster's points about discrimination against participants who are end of life or disabled. If telehealth services are out-of-state participants were discouraged. Sasha Baca, I'm not able to speak, but it would be great to see more clarification on what constitutes accredited continuing education. Okay. All right. Don't see any hands raised at the moment. Getting some more seconds. Michaela Vogt, seconds comments made by Dana Starbird and Tasha Poinsett. Shouldn't be treated as a licensed profession. Instead, should be more aligned with something like coaching, lifestyle changes, and choices. Excellent. Thank you so much. It looks like Erica Messenger, your hand is back up. Please go ahead.
It is. Thank you. I have a question on page 13 for it looks like F1 prior to or as part of the preparation session, the facilitator must perform a comprehensive screening, and then it goes into medical history. 1B says the participant has been provided medical clearance by the participant's medical or behavioral health provider or engaged in a consultation and risk review with medical or behavioral health provider. I just have a question. Are those medical or behavioral health providers have any kind of training in natural medicine services?
Lori, you able to answer that, or?
Would you be so kind as to tell us the rule number? You unmute if Ms. Messenger is already muted for the rule number that she's referring to. Is it if it's F1?
Sorry, I think I was somehow muted again, but it's on page 13. It would be F1, B, and C.
Okay.
It's not specifically required for the I'm going to review your the comments and your question, Ms. Messenger, and I will provide a response to you to your comment, if that's all right with you.
Thank you, Ms. Breton. And it's just the point I'm making is that if the behavioral health provider or medical provider don't have any kind of training, and I do not recommend that they need clinical facilitator training or anything like that, but there should be some time of standardized training if they're going to provide those risk reviews.
I understand your question. Thank you very much for it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Dr. Covens, I see your hand up again. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Lloyd Covens from Princeton Research in Lakewood. I just wanted to remind all that the next public meeting of Department of Revenue under the agenda will be next Wednesday, May the 1st, from 9 till I guess noon. And this will deal, of course, with DOR aspects. I believe this particular meeting will be leaning on rules for the healing centers, which all of us, of course, want to know. And that will be available live over at Revenue on Cole in Lakewood or via online. I don't have the direct link, but that will be Wednesday, May 1st. And I'm sure it'll be a great continuation of our conversation today. I wanted to just point out that in the proposed regulations, we have the area of screening people and screening them out of participation for potential psychedelic treatments here in Colorado, including cardiovascular, uncontrolled hypertension, liver disease, seizure disorder, chronic mental illness, suicidal ideation of some types, chronic PTSD, psychosis, schizophrenia, bipolar, and of course, several SSRI areas. These are all a great concern. But again, I would like to see some clarity on if this will be the responsibility of the licensed healer, guide, coach, facilitator to make sure this occurs, because then that comes under DORA's purview. Or will this be more of a medical offshoot where our group hopefully will do the best with our professionals in the mental health and the medical side to really start to prove what is that fine line between where we will be able to help somebody get past their PTSD or depression, or where we might make it worse. So that's in the screening side. I certainly like to see guidance there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Covens. We've had a few more written comments come in. Question from Dana Starber. Do we know what the cost to apply for licensure will be yet? That would be a question for Lori, if you know.
No, we don't have those numbers yet.
That's what I thought. And then Sean Hauser types, it would be great to have participant reported outcomes to the extent available as part of the record keeping alongside adverse events. This would be beneficial for the participant if they requested their file. Thank you for that suggestion. I don't see any further hands raised at the moment. We do have approximately 25 minutes left, so please feel free. Keep typing. We got another written comment from Erica Messenger as a follow-up to my recommendation for medical or behavioral health providers to have a standardized training in natural medicine services. Access to telehealth risk assessments would be necessary to allow for access to natural medicine trained providers for rural participants. Thank you for that. And I believe you said your name wasn't actually Sean Hauser, but I'm going to call on Sean Hauser. You are out. Your hand went down. All right. Please let me know if you have any other comments. But for now, we'll go back to Dana Starbird. You're up.
Thank you. This is a little off topic since we have a little extra time. I am curious about people who hold a mental health license in another state. Will they be able to apply for the clinical licensure? And then also, will you consider art therapists, expressive art therapists as a clinical facilitator, as they are used in military clinical settings to conduct research through the Creative Forces, which is a branch. It's supported from the National Endowment of the Arts and the Department of Defense. They have 26 research papers on clinical art therapy and how they have used that for trauma and PTSD for the military. Thank you.
I see Lori unmuted. Do you have anything you'd like to say to that?
Art therapists would be eligible to be licensed as a facilitator, not a clinical facilitator. The same, and a mental health provider would need to be licensed in the state of Colorado to apply for a clinical facilitator license.
Perfect. Thank you, Lori. All right, now Sean Hauser. Again, I apologize, that's not your real name, but please go ahead.
No worries, it's my fault. Josh Capel here. Again with Vicente and the Healing Advocacy Fund. I just wanted to flag that mandating referrals might not be, it just might not be safe if a facilitator doesn't feel confident in someone they're referring a patient to. And so, I'd suggest changing any of the different spots in the rules where it's like a facilitator must make a referral to a facilitator may make a referral, because we don't want facilitators to sort of make negligent referrals in theory just because they have to. So thank you.
And again, please, if you see me typing anything that's not capturing what you're saying, please let me know. Let's see if we have any more written comments that we haven't addressed yet. I don't think so. All right, and as we get closer to the time here, I just wanted to let everybody know that we are getting close to our ending time. So if you have anything and holding out on us, please raise your hand or start typing, and we will go to Tasha Poinsett. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Tasha Poinsett, Healing Advocacy Fund. So I know someone commented earlier about this requirement that facilitators specifically complete certain tasks. I forget, unfortunately, who commented on it, but I wanted to second that. It's section 6.15 specifically that I want to reference. the initial consultation or informal inquiry. I think it's really important that we broaden this a little bit because there may be different frameworks that a healing center might want to implement for the kind of initial screening process. And specifically, I think we want to allow for situations where it might be one licensed physician, for instance, who does screening for everyone, and based on that information has a range of different facilitators affiliated with the healing center and can then direct the participant to a specific facilitator. So to help you with a kind of brief version of this comment, provide flexibility for who performs initial intake, allowing for a range of models that might better support participant safety. And then again, we'll provide written comment with a little bit more context there, but I think that this might have resulted from taking, what was a code of ethics for facilitators specifically. So everything kind of references back to the facilitator, but in reality, there's a range of different approaches that might be appropriate to have a similar desired outcome.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your comment. Ashley, I see your hand is up.
Thanks so much, and apologies. There was a question posed directly to me in the chat. I think I may have made a technical error and accidentally deleted it. So I'll just jump in and respond. I'll try to paraphrase around whether 18-year-olds are able to either be interns or be participants in this program. And I think I'll say the General Assembly created the construct of this program that is being administered through DORA. The legislature retained the age 21 in that statutory language following the adoption of Prop 122. And so only individuals who are 21 and older may either become facilitators or receive services. Based on the plain language of the statutory construct, we're bound by that. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much for that clarification. Let's see. Brent Jaster, Dr. Jaster, I suppose. Please go ahead.
Thank you. And a Google Doc that I'm looking at, I apologize, it doesn't have the same numbering as the document you're showing, but it's the first line under the preparation sessions, if I'm reading a correct document, that it says preparation sessions for a group administration session must occur individually. And my comments about this goes to a point in my career where I was a nationally recognized expert on the concept of a group visit where patients could be seen in a group setting, and those per Medicare or the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, they gave a ruling that allowed groups to occur and allowed physicians and other licensed providers to provide individual care in a group setting. So I would just ask that any ruling around this maybe require that an individual I don't even know the right word, but an individual interaction is required in a group setting, but to basically say that an individual prep session has to occur, I don't think that follows actual data. There's no research in my knowledge that supports that. And we know we have group psychotherapy models that have been around for decades, just like the shared medical appointment or the group visit in a clinical setting that's not psychiatry has also been around for many decades. So I would just encourage the fact that yes, an individual needs to be prepped as an individual, but there are many redundant features that can be administered in a group setting that not only will cut costs, if we're talking about a model that can be sustained by our medical system, but it actually gives benefit because people can share information between each other or hear questions that they wouldn't, answers to questions they wouldn't have even known to ask. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment. I'll go back to written comments for a moment here. We got an anonymous comment saying, I'd like to comment in support of the previous comments surrounding licensed facilitators practicing outside a licensed facility. With regards to rural areas and considering end-of-life services, restricting facilitation services to licensed facilities only will exclude a large portion of people who could really benefit from this therapy. The license should cover your ability to provide these services in an environment that is the most comfortable for the client, including telehealth. Thank you so much. And Dana Starbird, another written comment, said, I would like to suggest that a waiver be available for trauma survivors and military people under the age of 21 with a referral from a medical provider be allowed to receive treatment. Thank you for that recommendation. All right, no more hands at the moment. Tasha Poinsett writes, I second that comment about allowing group prep sessions. Perhaps the operator could be required without prohibiting group prep sessions altogether. Thank you all so much for your comments. This is always preferable to silence, I have to say. So this is great. I'm not seeing any other hands raised at the moment. We do have about 14 minutes left. So if you have anything else you'd like to share, any other comments on what we're talking about today? Another Charity Mills, another vote for allowing group integration. And we have a hand up from, again, Sean Hauser. Excuse me. Go ahead, please. Oh, your hand went down. Dr. Covens, please go ahead.
Yes, I just want to come back to the concept. I know you took a note, but if a person is in a, in this instance, 60 to 90 hour window of training, I would hope we could help these people both take field and not be totally in the dark as to their complete training cutoff, because I think what you're looking at is a very high professional practitioner who has done many, many assisted trips, followed by an assisted practitioner, or I would call a co-pilot. In this instance, I would hope we could designate a co-pilot, perhaps finishing 45 or 60 hours of the course requirement, and be able to deal with people who are taking a dose that we all agree is not a high-end dose. That would be in the range of 22 to 28 milligrams. And I bring this up because these people are likely to match up with a person of lesser, I take the pilot, co-pilot, a person able to fly a Cessna should certainly be able to get up in the air. However, a person that is going to fly 350 people in an Airbus should have additional training. Corollary being, we need to, in my view, we need to bring up the pilot facilitators able to go in the field and deal with people at lower, more safer dosage. And then at that crossover, and again, there's tests that can be made on the psilocybin on-site and its current milligram per gram dosing. And that we have a cutoff. So a person taking a heroic amount, or a person taking an advanced amount, or perhaps a strain that is notoriously very powerful, they are able to be served by that full pilot or possibly two co-pilots during their experience. Again, if we make it one size fits all, I think we're driving people away from an unsettled business and asking them to be very highly trained without any revenues. So thanks for the time to comment.
Thank you so much. Appreciate all the comments. Well, I saw a hand up and then go down, but we did get a Riley Cap says that I know there's a lot of support in the legacy community for group sessions and allowing facilitators to ingest medicine during sessions. There's also a question about what is meant by 6.17 C and D. And if this, assuming this is what you're talking about here on screen. And feel free to raise your hand and speak if you'd like to help us kind of get the gist of what you're asking about, or if I'm even looking at the right spot. So there's a suggestion that D should be deleted. It is covered by C above. Also, it's unclear what assess means. Asking someone if they are suicidal during a trip could be very harmful and might actually increase suicidality through suggestibility in an altered state. All right, and we are down to our final 9 minutes. So if anybody who hasn't had a chance to speak yet, if you'd like to raise your hand, please go ahead. But until then, Tasha Poinsett, I see your hand is up. Please go ahead.
Thanks. I wanted to second that comment from Riley Capps. I heard concerns about the framing there of the that it's unclear what's being required there and could potentially actually be dangerous or problematic and should better be left to, there's a requirement to assess for risks, and then the specifics of that come in training and best practices. Another one I wanted to point out is 6.5E. The facilitator must inform the participant. It's 6.5E. So it requires conversation around alternatives to the use of natural medicines. And I think this isn't very applicable outside of a clinical context, because what is an alternative if somebody's seeking spiritual exploration or exploring their creativity or any of these other possible reasons people might seek access? So I recommend striking alternatives to the use of natural medicine. And then another piece of that is I think it might not be appropriate for non-clinical facilitators if the intent is that they discuss, SSRIs as an alternative. That might not be something that a non-clinical facilitator should really be raising outside of their scope. So yeah, suggest striking that. And I think just in general, thematically, really trying to analyze and keep in mind that this is not an exclusively clinical program whenever possible when thinking about the implications of some of these different language choices. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Dr. Jester, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Just as a general comment, as I'm reading through some of these, again, this document, but just an example of what I read here, that we must record the start and end time and date of each preparation, administration, and integration session. And I know with, say, an electronic medical record, when we start a visit and end a visit, there are timestamps, but just overall, I would encourage any rulemaking is just to take out anything that gets overly detailed and cumbersome, because that's not something that I record in any of my clinical visits. And in my mind, it just makes no sense in terms of a prep visit or an integration session. In an administration setting, it's important to know at what time we give someone a medicine, and we can approximate the start time and end time. But anything like this is just going to really make it overly burdensome. And ultimately, I think, take away from the energy that we're supposed to focus on the patient or client. And Riley Capps spoke a few moments ago, and I just wanted to concur. Can we go back to that section? We have these rules around touch that are being proposed, but it implies that I should be taking the blood pressure of someone during their medicine session. And well, one, I can't do that without touching a part of their body that's said that I can't touch per the rules, like their arm. You know, that's not their shoulder, that's not their hand. And the only other way to do it is to leave a blood pressure cuff on someone's arm. And that I don't think is helpful either. You know, if people have any issues around assault or trauma, like they don't need to have something constricting their arm during the middle of a session when we don't know where they are in the medicine. So a lot of these rules just basically don't make any sense, and I think will be detrimental to the patient or client receiving these medicines.
Thank you so much for your comment. Dana Starbird fully agrees on the susceptibility of suggestion. Susceptibility to suggestion. Got a second on deleting overly burdensome requirements and changing monitoring vital signs to just visual observations. If I could kind of summarize what y'all have been saying, is just to remove some unnecessary detail and make sure that nothing is sort of contradictory with these various requirements is kind of what I'm hearing. The overall suggestion, but please correct me if I'm wrong. And we are getting down to the very end, so I'm going to start calling on folks who haven't talked yet first, and see if we have any other written comments, but we are getting down to the end of our time. Grace, Sophia, excuse me if I butchered your name, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. Yeah, I'd like to talk about the requirement that facilitators are not allowed to also imbibe medicine at the same time that they're hosting a session. That really contradicts a lot of traditional practices. And I understand that that's not clinically advisable in the medicalized setting, but in the traditional settings and then the more ceremonial and shamanic settings, it's really part of the work to share medicine together, that the facilitator also takes some part of the medicine to be able to commune with the medicine and allow the medicine to guide the journey and the session, as well as stay connected to the client and their experience. And then the other requirement I'd like to talk about is the one that gets in the way of forcing and not allowing us to see clients out of state, and to allow us to really prepare prepare clients remotely and allow them to visit us in state for the sessions, but then also allow for preparation and integration sessions out of state using telehealth technology like Zoom. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Okay. We are just about at the end of our time, so I don't think we have any more time for spoken comments. Dr. Jaster seconded about not asking about self-harm or suicidality during the session. And we are just about done. So if you have any last second questions you'd like to type out, please feel free. Oops, forgot to stop the timer. But so I don't see any additional comments coming in. They will be, well, we got an anonymous comment. The curriculum, which does not exist yet, but will need to be completed before the December to apply for a practitioner license. Overlaying this approach means you must spend a year and perhaps $10,000 to begin possible providing services by mid-2025. Dana Starbird, our non-clinical facilitators allowed to work with trauma if their training is around trauma. And we got to thank you. So I just really wanted to reiterate our thanks for you all coming and participating today. Thank you so much for participating in today's meeting. As part of this collaborative process, all comments and program recommendations will be provided to the director for review before the next advisory board meeting on May 17th, 2024. Any proposed revisions by the board will be made available to stakeholders for additional comments prior to the rulemaking hearing, which is tentatively scheduled for June 20th, 2024. All rulemaking information can be found on the board's website under the Public Notices tab, and written comments may be sent to Dora_DPO_rulemaking@state.co.us. And that concludes this stakeholder meeting. Thank you again for your participation.